Okay, so the first question is, how did you become a non-feminist woman?
How did I become a non-feminist woman? Well, it's just with my life. I never really thought of feminism before. It wasn't something that was in my head. I didn't really know much about feminism. But I'm in my early 50s now, and I've had a fairly long life. And throughout my life, I've just noticed that everything's gone pear-shaped in my life, everything. Nothing's worked out. I tried to be a midwife, and that didn't work. And I'm also a mother, and I've struggled with everything. And just recently, I realised that actually I've got ADHD. Now, it hasn't been diagnosed, but I've looked at all the symptoms, I've read all about it, and I believe I've got ADHD. And ADHD has been linked to childhood trauma and childhood neglect. Now, my mother worked when I was young, and I can't really remember doing much with my mother at all. I don't have any memories of me and my mother. And I think that because my mother was working and she wasn't spending time with me, and I was being looked after by other people, I think that it affected my development, my brain development. And so that's why I'm quite strongly against feminism, because I believe that feminism attacks motherhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that we all need mothers, be male or female, we all need good mothers. We need to bring us up, so that in later life we can contribute to society,
Yeah.
And if you research into the amount of people who've got ADHD and all these other sort of learning disabilities, it's increasing. And I think there's a definite link between this, like things like ADHD and a lack of a mother in the home because she's working. She's if you think about a mother when she goes to work, when she'll go to work and then she'll come back and she'll be stressed about work and she'll have all these things in her head, and she's quite simply, she doesn't have the time to devote herself to her house, to her children, and to herself. And I'm quite worried about society at the moment, because if you look at this, an increase in crime, everything, it's spiraling downwards. And I honestly believe it's to do with the fact that mothers have been taken out of the home and they've gone to work. Mm-hmm. And that's why I feel quite strongly against feminism.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I can relate to some of this. And I mean, I feel like it's important not to bash the other side or whatever, but I also think that it's really unfair that when we try to speak out about the fact that mothers are important and someone needs to be at home with children during certain developmental stages and stuff, it's always we get told we get told that we're trying to bash the other side, and no one sort of like is willing to sort of maybe look at the science or look at it from an objective point of view. Is it true that children need mothers at home? You know what I mean? And yeah.
Can I just say that I've looked at some research. Now, there was research from the early 2000s, and people were then saying that they were looking at child development, mm-hmm. and they were noticing that with the ones whose mothers had gone back to work early in their life,
right,
up to age 5, there was definitely a negative effect on performance at later on, like for A levels and
right,
at school. There was a negative,
right,
a negative correlation,
right,
between the child's education
Yeah.
And and the mother going to work.
Right. So I haven't looked at the science, but I can say personally, on a personal level, I had a mother at home, and to me, this was valuable. So I see that, that's how I see it. I see it as super valuable because I really enjoyed having my mother at home. It meant something to me. It was valuable. It was good. So in my head, I always thought this is, if you have something, you want to give it to your children at the minimum. If you experience something good, you want to give it to your children. So that's how I saw it. And yeah, and I think it's really unfair that society doesn't place any value on that role. In a sense, it's like the feminists have devalued the role of woman in the home because there's no value placed on this role at all.
Well, there's no value because they're equating it to money.
Right.
They're equating because if, as a mother who stays at home, they're not paid, so
right.
Therefore they're worth nothing.
Right, and I think that's unfair.
If you go to work, you have value, but it's all based on money.
Right, and this is a problem, right?
Yes, because we're looking at things in terms of money, but what is valuable,
right?
What we can put into society.
Exactly, there are other ways to measure value, and that's the problem with motherhood. In that the role of the woman in the home was never valued because there was no money attached. I mean, and this is a bit weird because she can have value without having money, right?
Yes.
Right, and I think feminists, they miss that. They think that because you do not have any monetary value, then you have zero value. But you have value to the people in your lives. You have value to your children.
Yes, and well, to society.
And to society, right?
Because you need children to grow up and to be responsible citizens.
Right.
For the next generations.
Right.
We need engineers, we need scientists,
exactly.
All these people.
Exactly, and you don't have the time to invest in your children. If you're working all the time, I would think not as much time. And I know feminists say, oh, you can have it all, women can have it all, but there's also reality. There's reality that we cannot do it all, and that you do need time to invest in your children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think the priority should be for women to stay at home if they've got children. Stay at home, bring them up, and then at a certain age, when they're old enough, then they can go to work. Why can't women go to work later in life? I think this feminist idea is against women because it's ageist.
Right. It's also that, like, they say, like, in modern society now, they're like, you can have kids at any age. Women are having kids at 40 and things. I had kids young. I had my first child quite young, and then I have 3 kids. So I have had also a child at 30. That's the oldest I had a child at, when I was 30. And the truth is, it's crazy. Having a child at 30 or 22 is totally different. And I mean, and I can't imagine having a child at 40. Why would we be telling women that this makes sense?
Well, I've got 6 children.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I had my youngest in my early 40s. And
oh my gosh. Really?
I was absolutely exhausted with the 6th one.
Yeah.
Exhausted. It's not like being in the 20s.
Right.
So why can't we have children early?
Right.
And then go to work old.
I also think so, in terms of like how the whole society sets it up to that children have to come after the career, which is logical because you need money in order to raise children. But the point is that they sometimes set it up that by the time you're ready to have children, you're almost 40. And it's like, I cannot imagine trying to carry a child at my age. I just can't imagine it. It's like, I already feel physically weak. I'm close to 40 now. So I already feel physically weaker than I did 10 years ago. Like, how can I carry a child right now? It's just, like, I can't imagine it. And I don't understand why we're telling women that is what makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
It's really... Okay, the next question. What do you think of patriarchy? Do you think we live in a patriarchy here in the West?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
if you look at all the CEOs of all the businesses like TikTok or Apple, Mercedes, Barclays Bank, HSBC, they're all men. I think women are deluded into, we're being told that, women have jobs in high places, but in reality we don't. If you look at all the leaders around the world, most of them are men, aren't they? Most presidents, prime ministers, the majority of them are men.
So you would say that men have more power than women over society?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In England, we have in schools, we have like a chief executive of the school, like an executive head, and then we have a head teacher. Now, most people just see the head teacher, and a lot of those heads are women. But above the women, there are men.
Okay, so if men have more power in society, how do they use that power? Do they use it against women, or how would you describe that?
Well, obviously they're dictating the policies, aren't they? They're dictating.
So you would agree with feminists that society benefits men more than it benefits women?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we live in a patriarchy. Okay. Do women have power at all in this society? How do you see
women have
power as well? Do you think women also have power?
We do have power, yes, but definitely men have more. I was looking today at all the doctor's posts, all the consultants in a local hospital, and if you look, most of the consultants are men. Yeah, women do have power. We do have power, but it's the men who have the most power.
Okay, fair enough.
So I would, yeah.
Okay. What is your opinion on MRAs? These are men's rights activists.
Well, I believe that everybody has, should be able to stand up for their rights. Everybody should. But I think there can be these MRAs. They can be a little bit aggressive towards women. But that's my concern.
Okay. Okay. What is your take on gynocentrism, the idea that the world is centered around women, or that women get more sympathy in society, women have it easier than men?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay, would you say women have it harder?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you think women have the harder role as opposed to men?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I said we're in a male-dominated society. If you look at jobs, it's usually the women have the worst jobs and the men have the better jobs. The women are worse paid. The women are doing all the hard work, and a lot of women at the moment, they have to work. They're not getting paid a lot, and then they've got to go home and do all the stuff at home as well. So they're doing two jobs.
Right. So then you would say, then if you want equality, we need feminism.
No, we don't need feminism, because feminism is against motherhood, and that's what I don't like. Feminism is against motherhood. Feminism is taking women out of the home.
Right.
And it's dismissing women's basic function. A basic function of a woman, and it's not against women to say this, is that we've got all the biological characteristics to give birth and to look after children, and that surely must be our priority.
Yeah. Okay.
You see what I mean?
Yes. But for you don't think it's important to have equality between men and women?
I believe that we need fairness, justice, fairness and justice for the two sexes.
Right.
But we are not equal. Therefore, we have to be treated slightly differently because we're not equal.
Right.
For example, if I have an appointment to see a gynecologist, I would prefer to see a woman than a man. Now, with all this egalitarian stuff coming in, a lot of men are now getting jobs that traditionally used to be done by women. For example, they're getting a lot of more and more male midwives. If you want to see a doctor, then I think you should be able to see women should be able to see female doctors.
Okay. Okay. What do you think of intersectionality?
Intersectionality.
So it's this idea that, for example, different groups face different problems. So let's say minorities have more problems in society than the majority. LGBTQ people have more problems than heterosexual. They say then men have it easier than women. So it's like white male heterosexuals have it easier, but you, for example, as a woman and as a minority in the UK, you have it harder.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yes.
Okay, so
I'm a convert to Islam, and before I was just female and mixed race.
Okay.
So I just had to deal with that.
Right.
And then as soon as I started to wear hijab, I suddenly noticed that I was the very lowest of the low.
Okay, okay.
So I can really see the difference.
Okay, so you agree with that part of feminism?
Yes.
Okay, I also had a similar experience in that I also thought at a certain time when I first encountered intersectionality, I understand what they're saying, that, you know, different groups do face different problems. And yes, I do agree with the statement, like, that you, as somebody who is a minority, who is Muslim, you face more problems than if you were not. Also, I think immigrants, you know, face more problems, and so on and so on. So there are groups that face more problems. I agree.
But I'd also like to say that when it comes to issues towards women, I'd like to say that older women as well are treated more, you know, people are more against older women than...
Right. When a woman is young and fertile and pretty,
yes,
she gets all this benefit and nice treatment, but as she ages, then she doesn't get as much empathy.
Yes, and that's where feminism fails, because feminism doesn't look at the older woman, it just looks at the younger woman.
I agree. Feminism often makes a lot of rules, and they're very loud about the situation of young women, but not of other women. That's right.
Exactly. Yeah, older women are sort of, you know, they're insignificant.
Right, because when they talk about things like catcalling and when they scream about, you know, the treatment between men and women, this is all only a problem for a minority of women, not only young women. It's a problem for young women, but it's also a problem for pretty young women, because as a woman who has never been like the ideal in terms of looks, I have not had problems with these sort of things. And yeah, I think this is somehow feminists talk a lot from the perspective of a pretty young woman.
Yes.
Yes. So
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I asked that already. What do you think of hypergamy, the idea that women choose men based on their status in society, whether or not they have money or wealth, or
what do I think? Do I think it's a good idea?
No, do you think it's true? Do you think that's how women choose men? Or do you think
I think a lot of women would do that. I think it's just a natural thing, isn't it?
Right, okay, some women do it. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so in your view, what is when you think of feminism, what is the main thing you want to say to society about feminism?
That it attacks motherhood. That's my thing I really don't like about it.
Okay. I would agree with you.
And it's against women, because it's setting men against women. And why are women always competing against men? It's as if feminism is basically saying that women are inferior to men, because feminism is telling women that we've got to compete with men. We've got to be like the men. Why do women have to be like the men? You know, if you're saying that a woman has to be like a man, you are therefore saying that a woman is actually inferior to a man.
Right. Okay. I agree. Yes.
Yeah.
But feminists often say that they are not attacking mothers and that they simply want choice for women. What would you say to that?
well, they are attacking mothers because
Yeah.
I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Right. And we mean what they say.
I used to take my children to the playgroup, and mothers would say to me, "Oh, don't you work? Why don't you work?" and this and that. And the lowest of the low if you're a stay-at-home mother.
Mm-hmm.
You're treated as nothing.
Right, and also online, when you have to read all of what they say, don't ever depend on a man. If you depend on a man, he will eventually hurt you, and you are stupid, and you're made to feel stupid for trusting men.
Yes.
And they do attack motherhood. They do try to prioritize career over motherhood instead of looking at it as something equal. They say they want choice, but they are not making these two things out to be equal. When they talk about trad wives, it's always complaints about them. Why these women want to be trad wives? They complain. They say that they're associated to the far right. They are, some sort of Nazi movement or neo-Nazi, and so on and so on. Instead of just allowing women to want to stay at home and have children.
Yes.
As if this is not a normal want. As if it's something so weird or foreign, or as if women couldn't possibly want that.
Yeah. From an Islamic perspective,
right?
It's seen as if when a woman is at home and she's supposed to, if she's got children, her priority has to be the children, and she has to look after the house as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when she looks after the house and she looks after the children, then the husband, who's been out at work and had a hard day, when he comes home, he's going to feel relaxed, and he's going to, therefore, when he goes back to work, he's going to be able to do his job better. He's not going to be stressed. Mm-hmm. What happens nowadays is if there's two people working and they've got children as well, then the mother's coming in from work. She's stressed about work. The house is a mess.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to deal with the children. They've got to deal with work. They've got to do the housework and everything, and it makes the house not a very pleasant environment to be in. And I think that leads to divorce because a lot of people aren't happy.
Right. Okay.
What do you think about that?
I think, whether or not traditional marriage is better for not divorcing. Well, I don't know, but I think that it is true that for me personally, if I had to work and raise children, I could see that it would be stressful, and I think it would just add stress to our situation. I think what happens more often is that people who work, who have the egalitarian relationship and work, they just have less kids. So I think that in any case, you always are going to drop something. You can't do it all. You have 6 kids. So obviously it makes sense for you to stay at home because you have a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
In the house.
Only with me now, some of them have left, but yeah.
But still, you've had a lot of work throughout your life. You've had 6 children. You've always had a child at home. You've had 6 children. That's a lot of work. So for you, it makes sense for you to stay at home. But what happens more often in the egalitarian setup is that they will only have one child, and that child will be a lot for them because they both have jobs and a child, so they can't have it all. It just happens like that,
And for me, that's very selfish because what society is doing with feminism is they're encouraging couples to only have 1 or 2 children.
Right.
Often 1. Right. Now, I'm an only child myself.
Right.
And I have to say, that's probably why I've got 6 children, because being an only child is horrible. Well, I'm older now and I don't have any siblings. I have nobody apart from my own children and my mother and father.
Right.
My husband. I don't have aunties and uncles because my mother was an only child as well. And so I think society is not going to be a nice place just full of own children. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I'm not an only child. And I think I love the fact that I grew up with siblings. It was the best time of my life. I have my memories of playing with my siblings and cousins, and everything that I cherish in life has something to do with community and with others, and I think that society is moving in a very individualistic direction where we are breaking down all those connections, because the family is the center of community. Without family, you don't have community. And we are telling everyone, well, of course, it is okay to be single, but we are moving in a direction with feminism where they cause strife between men and women, where people will have no choice but to be single. They are not giving women or men choice. They are going to create a society where we have no choice but to be single. And
why would we have? Why? What do you mean we don't have a choice? But
I think the way in which feminists treat men in society, the way in which this society treats men, and then men react, and the way in which men treat women, there's a lot of hate that builds up between the sexes before they even get to know each other. Coming from, let's say, Islam, right, or from a more religious society, there are notions of goodness between the genders. There are notions. The men are taught to respect women, to love women, to treat women in a certain way. The women are taught as well to respect men, to honor what they do, to treat them in a certain good way, and these things are taught. We have a society today that is overwhelmingly led by feminist culture, and we are not teaching our children to love the opposite gender. In fact, we are teaching them that the opposite gender is problematic, that you can never depend on a man, that men are all out to get you, that men are bad, that men are sexual assaulters, that men are oppressors, that men are patriarchy. This is what the dominant culture is teaching women about men. And then men react to that, and what are they teaching them, women? What are they teaching, other men about women? That they are hypergamous, that they are gold diggers, that they are bad people, that they just go from man to man. You understand? So we've created a cultural norm where the genders don't like each other. How are we gonna expect them to couple up and have normal, good relationships?
And do you think that's done on purpose then? Do you think it's kind of a divide and conquer to weaken people so that we can be controlled?
I have absolutely no idea, but I think that either way, if it's on purpose or it's by accident, we should try to make it stop. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think.
Have you noticed that all the most powerful people in the world, they all come from big, strong families? You've got, like, the British royal family.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the Rothschild family.
Mm-hmm.
These big families.
Family is important. Family is extremely important. Family is the beginning of it. Like you said, motherhood is important. It does a lot for a child. Family is important to build, a person and a personality, and to give strength to a person. You need a family to rely on. And more than a family, you also need a community. Families build up communities. So the structures in society are not insignificant. They're important. It is important to have something similar to religion, so to speak, where we can say that these things are important, that men and women can come together under happy, good grounds, and like each other and have kids and respect each other. But we have a culture that is promoting the opposite gender is horrible. You can be single. Single is the best. Single is okay. Just be single and forget them. And then you need to work. You as a woman need to work. Well, yeah, it's obvious that we can't have it all. So she's going to work, but she's not going to have kids. And as you say, having children and bringing up good children is a contribution to society that is not being recognized, but it's real.
Yeah,
it's real. It's a real contribution to society.
Exactly. I mean, the amount of crime now in the UK is ridiculous. I don't know what it's like where you are, but we've got a lot of crime, a lot of youth crime,
mm-hmm.
a lot of children walking around with knives in the UK. It's quite bad. And behind that, we don't have proper families anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of children are being brought up and they don't even know who their father is anymore.
Okay, what would be, in your opinion, the major issues facing men and women today? Basically, what are the major issues facing each gender?
I think men and women are just not happy. I think that's a big issue.
Okay.
They're not happy, and we're not happy, and feminism is behind that unhappiness.
Right.
And feminism is also, I think it's wages. I'm sure wages are going down because of feminism. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, more people in the workforce, less wages. Also, they get higher rents because people are single. You know, so people there's high demand for apartments with single. You know, they also have the society is trending in a direction where we no longer even like our parents. So we don't want to live with our parents. We want to make say that our parents are narcissistic and they treated us terribly, so no contact. You know, I'm not saying that.
Do you not think that's to do with motherhood again, though? Because there hasn't been that bond.
Oh,
do you see what I mean? If mothers are going to work, they're not bonding as well with their children.
Okay, yeah, it can be. It can be, yeah. But to me, of course, this is all very strange because I think I come from a kind of backward culture, and we had community. You know, I appreciate everything my parents did for me, and I think it was never like that. The concept that your parents could be narcissistic and stuff like that is so foreign coming from a communal setting because it's just so foreign, you know. But now we have all that. Now we have a system where you don't even have to like your parents anymore. You know, it's really it's bizarre, but yeah, it is what it is. Okay, the last question is: do you have any stories in your life, or do you know anyone who you would say has been affected by feminist culture?
Well, only me.
Okay.
Yeah, just because I've been a mother, and I think I've never really fitted in with society because I've been a stay-at-home mother.
Okay.
Most of my life.
Right. Okay, so I can say I don't know if I have the same exact experience, but yes, I do. And I think it's really difficult, you're right, to be a stay-at-home mother from the perspective of you also face some loneliness and so on. Right? Yeah. Because you're not working.
A long time ago, the mothers used to stay at home. A lot of mothers used to stay at home. And there would be some sort of comradeship in the streets. You know, all the women would get together and chat and everything. And now it's very isolating to be a stay-at-home mother.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. And I think feminists need to listen to, like, what we're saying, in a sense. Because if they really are for women, they should be for all women.
Yeah.
You know, and they should be also for women who want to stay at home and who want to have kids. Because it's not the worst thing in the world to want to have kids. And to prioritize those kids.
No.
Yeah. And I think they say that they are fighting for the working woman because she, in their eyes, this is the new thing, so they think the majority of women. But the fact is the majority of women are working. You know? So if they want to keep choice for us, then choice means you have to support the side that is also a minority, which would be women who stay at home. You know? And so yeah, I do think society needs to be kinder to people who are at home, like you and me and other women who choose that. And I think it's okay to choose such a thing. As long as you have the support of your husband and so on, you know?
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? What do you think about reproductive rights?
Oh, I didn't ask you then. I
No.
thought you wouldn't want to answer because I thought Islam covered it. But okay, I can ask you. What are your thoughts on male reproductive rights?
It's just I was listening to one of your other interviews.
Yeah.
And a woman was talking about that she believed that men should have
Right.
a say in the matter.
Okay, I'll tell you.
For example, with an abortion or whatever.
Yeah.
And I noticed that none of you mentioned the rights of the child, and I was rather shocked because with feminism, they're always talking about the rights of the woman,
right?
And then of course you've got the MRAs talking about the rights of the man,
right.
But nobody's talking about the rights of the child.
Okay, so your position on reproductive rights is anti-abortion, meaning no choice.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Well, yeah, many people have that position, usually from religion. So yeah. Okay,
it saddens me that nobody's talking about the child. Everybody's talking. It's kind of selfish.
Yeah.
Because we're moving into a more selfish way of living.
Right.
And if feminism is behind it, it's not very nice.
Yeah. Okay, I understand. That's fair. Yeah. Okay. Personally, I am pro-choice. So I am guilty of not thinking of the child. That's true.